It's kind of a dying breed nowadays, the craftsman, and we were lucky enough to have not only the timber framing craftsmanship, but we had, manufacturing or remodel craftsmanship as well that worked on the same kind of levels that tied in and made our life easy. Yeah.
Every timber frame home has a story. Fellow timber enthusiasts, I'm here on Vashon Island, and I'm really excited to bring this information to you. It's not only the timbers, there's going to be layout, there's some really unique features here that are cool. And you may have some comments on, or even have some ideas on what you see, maybe some questions. And feel free to comment on that. With that said, I'm going to introduce you to Geoff and Kelly Wotton. They're going to share their story, how their story evolved, and just a lot of details that you're really going to enjoy. So come on in, let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Geoff. This is my wife Kelly, and we're here at Miramar.
A little history about the Miramar. It was built in 1911, 1912. It is the site of one of the Puget Sound's old summer resorts. It would have served clientele from Tacoma, not Seattle. The south end of Vashon didn't have a linkage to the north end for a very long time till a highway went through, possibly the 50s. This was built from the water. There was no road down to this site. The owner of the place had a 200-acre resort. This property is the original lodge. It is a log construction building with a concrete daylight basement and a 2-story log structure built on top of that.
Back in the 70s, my mother would drop me off here at my grandmother's house that was just next door, and I'd spend my summers here. So it was less fun then because there were no people and I was a kid, but now as we're older, this is a much more pleasant place to stay.
Yeah, and when the opportunity came up for us to buy the property, we were interested in doing the renovation. It was pretty run down. When we embarked upon it, we decided it was important to try to retain the original character of the building and do our best to do something that would both bring it into the modern era, make it more livable, but still respect the integrity of what it used to be. A very, very long process. We first pulled a repair permit. There was some degradation and rot in some of the log structure that needed to be addressed, and it took us a year to get a repair permit. We started with that, began working on the main structure, but our goal always was to do an addition so that we could provide the modern piece to it, which was to improve the kitchen. There were no stairs between the lower level daylight basement and the mid-range property. There were no stairs, so we wanted to get internal stairs. We had an architect pull together a nice layout, and we spent quite a bit of time going over what material would be the best marriage to the old log structure, and we chose a timber frame. I think it's so much more than we ever anticipated, and how nice it is. It's beautiful.
Originally, when we started the renovation idea and the addition idea, we were dealing with the log structure that was handmade with no power tools, no nails, no screws. And the concern was, how do we put an addition on that? Today's log structures are nowhere near in sync with what these people did over 100 years ago. And that's what landed us on a timber frame after seeing what was done with the Aero guys. These are teams that work like these guys did 100 years ago. Everything's built by hand and fit on site, and there's no mass production or without any screws. And the rewarding part for us, I think, at the end when everything came together, is to have the original handmade structure being complemented by a handmade timber frame tightly integrated into it, with handmade lighting, and everything else in the whole on the whole property is basically trying to be in sync with what they did over 100 years ago. And yeah, the big win was when we finished, or as we finished, you could see it come together, and yeah, it matches and everything looks handmade, feels handmade, and it doesn't look like somebody, tagged an addition onto something that, doesn't look anything like it.
Here I am on the master bedroom deck. I'm looking out into the Puget Sound. Got this little bit of the marine smell, and it's just a fabulous place. There's more fabulous things here on the other side of this wall, which has windows integrated with the timbers. You're gonna see a master bedroom that's laid out just great. I mean, I would love to live here. Another point to note here is the long angle here that supports the overhang. The overhang is proportionate to getting decent coverage for the deck and this wall with the windows, but letting in enough light. And they do get a ton of light because this is west. So the sun comes off the water and really glares, but you're gonna see some blinds, electric blinds that come down. Just really some nice blinds if you need blinds, something to take note of. And then lastly, I wanna point out the copper caps on the ends of the beam. This is a Puget Sound, there's a lot of water up here. Anytime you got flat surfaces and wind and rain, it pays to protect the very ends of them. And the copper is a great way to do it. You can do it with black metal, you can do it with green metal. Metal is generally gonna be your fix, but keep that in mind as you've got timbers facing the elements.
As we were looking at the remodel, there was a strong desire to want to use logs to tie in with the original. And we did spend some time talking to log building manufacturers, and we just couldn't get comfortable with the materials they had available. Well, not even the contractor themselves, but the materials just weren't in kind with what was used back in the day. Back in the day, it was, you know, an entire log that was hand hewn, and today's stuff is all run through a mill, and they, you know, like popsicle sticks, they all look identical.
And they're small, typically small.
Yeah.
There's a great variety in the size of the logs in the original building.
You know, the decision to move away from logs and move to timber was a hard one, but it was a very good decision, and everybody, you know, we believe, as well as anybody who's seen it, that it integrates very, very well.
Right.
And, you know, shows the craftsmanship, which is really what it's supposed to be.
With respect to how we live in it today, we ended up getting a very open layout. It has a master on the main, which of course is wonderful, and it's a great entertaining house. We could have, I mean, you could host 100 people here, and they could flow across this property. In fact, we did. Our daughter got married here last summer. It was lovely. It was just beautiful, and the house handled it just fantastically. It's a great feel. Cozy, but yet it's large. We spend a lot of time on the deck. Everything flows really, really nicely, and it's just a great pleasure to live in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Geoff and Kelly kind of explained, I'm standing in the master bedroom. We have a triple bifold door here that gives you a nice big opening right into the kitchen, but you can still have privacy. There's a master bathroom. We're gonna bring some pictures in there. It's really unique. And of course, I'm standing in this room that has big windows. Everywhere I look from here, I'm seeing glass and view. So that's 180 degrees right here that is just spectacular. Part of this was a little bit of a shear problem. We're picking up shear, just technical weeds here, in the back and using the roof to get some shear support here. And the posts also drop all the way down. And so you can pick up shear walls below, and the posts poke up through the floor. And they're just like a pole building. They're just not gonna go anywhere that way. That was kind of a challenge going down memory lane here. This master bedroom, got space on both sides. You see that 180 degrees. And of course, the electric shades come down for the sun glaring off the west. Just fabulous place to live here. Oh, and by the way, if you really like this, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. That helps us out, keeps us putting out new content, and together we move forward with new ideas and continued momentum. Okay, so let's move on to something else.
The timber frame section of the house, the original log frame or log house is, you know, small windows. Views are there, but they're just the timber frame really opened those views up, and you know, just the master bedroom and the bathroom is nothing compares. Just, you know, to be able to see forever in both directions, and wake up with the daylight and watch the sunset, and you know, very happy with how it turned out and the openness.
Absolutely. If we had to do it over again, we might take pause because it just took so long and was difficult. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're on an island. King County is difficult to get permits. We're on waterfront, so there's a lot of reasons why our particular situation was long and costly, and worth it, but took a while. For other people, get an architect. Get somebody to model things for you. Make sure you can visualize something ahead of time. That certainly helped us a lot. We did some 3D renderings, and of course, you've got we use a computer a lot to make decisions on what we hope to see it look like. And then through the process of determining what we put on the inside and all of that, you want to talk to people and allow for some flexibility as you move along. Especially with the timber frame, we had to make adjustments on the fly. Decisions were made as we were going through, like, well, maybe we should change this. This is not exactly what the architect laid out, but we think it's much better. It's very close.
Okay, so here I'm in the original living room of the original hotel here. And I remember coming here, Geoff had us up here when we were getting started, and the ceiling was sagging here with overspan beams. And the fix to that was to put in a steel beam with a skin around it, done beautifully. And then as a bonus, Geoff and Kelly were such great customers. One of the things that we did is this stairway had irregular steps, and there was one that had a board. And so we readjusted this. It took a lot of work, but it was just a fun thing to do as kind of a little thank you. It turned out great. And this is the original stairway. You couldn't do anything else today to rebuild it, because now you have to follow code, which is 10 inches by less than 8 for the rise, and this is obviously steeper, not quite a 45, maybe 40 degrees. Stairways today fall between 34 and 30 degrees, which is a lot less steep when you're walking on it. I'd like to take you upstairs as well. That's where a lot of the log work was done that Geoff referred to, and here's a great example of either using a tension ring or a 4-legged scissor truss. So let's go take a look at that. This is about as unique of a guest bedroom as you're gonna find. We're above the living room. This was kind of a lookout room, maybe a library back in the day. But this is it's square, roughly 20 by 20. Now here you have the choice of using a tension ring, a ring that cannot blow apart. So these rafters, these corner rafters, these hips, push down into the corners, and if they can't explode, they can't go anywhere. Just a 4-legged truss is kind of what it's like. And the other option is to use the scissor and connect the bottom cords so they can't fall apart. So you got kind of two options here. One thing that was unique about the construction with this is all these vertical logs you see, they're short little vertical logs, they had to be taken out and then replaced as the new beams were coming up. And this was phase 1 of the construction repair, because this was the roof. And the last thing that's really unique about this guest bedroom is the commode. It's just a sink toilet unit that's right in the corner. And I thought Geoff was pretty creative finding that. He said it's actually what they use in prison. And he's never seen one himself, nor have we, which is good. But unique solution, and just adds to the unique flavor of what they've got going on here. All right, a few other things to show you.
As we were here timber framing, it was nice to have the timber frame team on site. They actually stayed on site, and it allowed us to, to really live in the project and understand, what we were going for much better than you can, like Kelly said, from a piece of paper or a drawing. So there were some significant decisions made on the fly, and really ended up in optimizing, tying the original structure in with the new structure, as well as optimizing flow inside the house and views throughout the house, because it is, we've got massive views here, got a lot of original content that's historical, and so optimizing those is, like I said again, was really hard to do on a piece of paper. So having, the timber frame team on site really made that easy.
Yeah, old houses present a lot of challenges, so you have to be flexible, and having people that you're working with that understand that and will adjust as needed is kind of imperative.
The standard contractor today brought into this house, which we tried several times, ended up in failure. So we had to reset and then go back and find people based on their ability and desire to work on something unique that's not meant to be built overnight, and ends up with the beauty being part of the craftsmanship itself.
Okay, so here is a stairway that is added to the original project, and I love, we provided the timbers, Austin, the carpenter on site, did the work, but the stain and the colors and the flow, everything just follows that fine craftsmanship dictate that Geoff and Kelly were running with here. And as we come around here, there's one fascinating thing. See this wall right here? That is the earth. That texture was made by the earth. On the other side, when it was built, there were forms that was just made, scraped out. And Geoff informs me that that was sand, just super old sand that did not cave out. So it was easy to get something somewhat uniform. And it's pretty cool that this was left visible and part of the architecture, part of the story. Just adds to the uniqueness of everything. Okay, we're in another guest bedroom, kind of an office as well. We really didn't do anything but supply these beams. They're big beams and they're real high quality. We did have to search for some extra special logs to get something that was going to satisfy the craftsman vibe of this whole project. And I really like the brick. It dovetails nice with that sand. Just really a neat mix of style. And the directive that Kelly and Geoff had, they kind of just fell into it almost accidentally. They just kind of knew they both wanted a lot of light. They wanted to modernize it. They wanted to stay true to the history of the original Miramar hotel, the vacation place. So, turned out great. Now I'm here on the deck. It's kind of a wraparound deck on 3 sides. It was 3 sides, now it's kind of 2 big sides. And some really neat things about this particular part is the posts are original. We had to take them out and then work them back in with lower beams and then work with the stonemason below and then put new beams up on top. And then the cross housing pieces you see are original. They're housed into the beams. In this case, there's a scarf joint with the housing cut into it. Just step at a time, just do a step at a time, and it's that craftsman piece that Geoff referred to. Really fun to work with them. And there's a lot of scarf joints on this particular job. One of the reasons is, if you drove down the hill to get here, it's so snaky and so many turns, you're limited in length. And we couldn't get a crane down here. There's a lot of handwork. And the scarf joints have held up really well. They've kind of shrank together. They're just doing super well right here in this environment. And of course, they were crafted and connected in a way that hedges bets to look good in the future. And here they really have. Alrighty, I'm down on the lower balcony. I'm standing on some stone. There's the stone plinths with the wall. And waves in the high tide, wintertime, waves will come crashing through here. There's a big bronze grate and a sump pump set up to get the water out. But one point that I really want to mention is here is one of the original posts, and they had to be extracted, and then we have some internal connectors. The posts are lifted, and the owners really appreciate that because it's going to eliminate any rot problems in the future, and they want this to be around for another 100 years. So I have one more thing to show you. It's a gate that's original, and it almost looks like it's from Roman times. Let's go take a look at it. Okay, so what we have here is definitely looks like from Roman times, asterisk, obelix type stuff, right? But here's a counterweight on a short piece of log that goes out to a gate, and this just swings right back and forth. It makes the gate really light to operate. So I'll just show you here. Okay, so here we go. Just a couple fingers, nice and easy, and upsy daisy. Alrighty, so we're kind of at the end of our tour here. And what are some big takeaways that you got? Leave those in the comments. And far as anybody embarking on their building journey, and especially a remodel, you may want to consider the vision. Geoff and Kelly had a clear vision. They were kind of on the same page from the get-go without a lot of work. That may or may not happen to you. Then it was who to hire. Kelly mentioned an architect and designer, and we do that as well. Then you've got the actual build, who you're gonna hire. When that wasn't in alignment, like you heard, it ended in failure. So there's 3 takeaways for you. Get on the same page with your vision, by hook or by crook, number 1. Then you've got to figure out who you're hiring to depict the vision and the planning, architect, builder, and timber framer. No, we really are part of that, working in that 3-piece deal. And then you've got who are the contractors? Will they deliver, and what are they gonna do? The takeaway, fabulous project. Your timber frame story is gonna be unique. It will be a story. Let's make it good.